that's ever possible, whether that's just unworkable.
I hate to say never ever. I will tell you what, I don't like them worth a dang, emails, for these sorts of, number one, it just seems to lack a sort of integrity. Number two, emails cannot convey tone of voice, kindness, collegiality. It can come across much differently than that which was intended. I don't like phone calls that much. Now, sometimes you're going to have to punt back to one of those, but boy, I would avoid them. Have the integrity to take me aside and look me in the eye. I might bark at you. I might threaten. But at least you can go home knowing you did the right thing. And you know what? My experience is that many, certainly not all, of the individuals who are the recipients of those conversations may have acted doubly badly. And you may think that you've had no impact on me whatsoever. Because I didn't say thank you, I didn't apologize, I didn't say I'd go make it right. But you know what? Before that person goes to sleep, many of them will say, you know, something different happened today. A colleague had enough fortitude, integrity, courage to take me aside and share something that I did that really isn't who I am. Dang. You know? Have you ever had a colleague take you aside and express a concern about some aspect of treatment, care, diagnosis, behavior, anything? I mean, one of the team members came up to me this morning after I'd had one of those delicious bagels and there was still some cream cheese right here, and pointed that out. I appreciated it. Otherwise, I'd been walking around here this morning with a big white dot right there. And that's about the level of these conversations. When you think about it, at least that's the intention. Do you want to continue this discussion? Is that the answer you were hoping for?
Yeah, I think that your discouraging of it is important. And I think that actually
Can you hear?
No.
Step up to the mic, please, Doug.
No, I think that's right. I think the discouraging of it is what we need to hear. And I think that there's a lot of value in the face-to-face part, even though that may be the very difficult part. Sometimes the words get lost after the conversation's done. It's that somebody walked over, pulled me inside and said, hey, can I talk to you for a second? That's more valuable than the words that are said.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate that latter concept. You are absolutely right. I have never delivered a cup of coffee conversation where I could go right down the checklist afterwards, because they never go exactly as I planned them. And I never let it go as planned when somebody comes to me with one. It's going to get off track. But I'm going to remember that you came to me, and that was different. And there's plenty of evidence in the sociology literature, for those of you who want citations, that it's the showing up that really makes the difference. So thanks for that comment. Back here.
Hi, I'm Cindy. You know, in medical education and in pediatrics, when we're trying to encourage behaviors that are positive, we tell people when they're doing good things. And I haven't heard that in this conversation at all. And when one of the observers was saying that the one nurse said, well, I didn't want you to think I was dumping on you. This is what made me think about part of building a culture where this is a natural thing, where somebody could have a little coffee cup conversation, where it feels more natural, is that, you know, that it's part of the culture. When somebody's doing something that you think is a good thing, you tell that person instead of just focusing on the negative. And all I've heard so far today is focusing on the negatives, and I think that we need to build each other up too in the workplace. And I think these conversations would come more naturally, and they would be received a little bit better. That's all I have to say.
Amen. I really appreciate you bringing that up. this is so insightful. It's not just about gotcha. Now, the gotchas occur when you're able to say, I really liked how you handled that whiny patient. I really liked how you solved that problem with fill in the blank. Nice work. Please don't misunderstand. We wanted to get together today to share with having the difficult, more challenging conversations. It's hard for some of us to give a compliment. It's even harder for some of us to receive a compliment. And so making it part of the culture that we, during rounding or with the thank you notes, recognize the great work that's being done by the vast majority of professionals with whom we're privileged to work, that you do say thank you, that you do let them know that you saw, that you heard, that you got a report that they were just outstanding. The things that were being flashed up on the screen as we all came in this morning are testimony to the power of those testimonies, because those words are spoken, the positive ones, less often, but they are spoken in our homes and in our families, in our neighborhoods. They're said to our pew mates and to our social club members. And so folks do hear when we're thrilled and proud to be part of a great organization. Unfortunately, the marketing literature tells us quite clearly that 10 to 20 times more conversations will be held when somebody's dissatisfied. And so we want to be able to address both. I totally agree with you, and I apologize sincerely for not making sure that that message was said. So thank you for saying it.
I appreciate what you're trying to do is helping us to understand how to have those difficult conversations. But I was thinking about day to day in the workplace. So many times people do good things and it doesn't even rise in your consciousness to say, wow, that was a good thing that person did. And that's all I'm trying to say is I think sometimes we don't even let it come to our consciousness enough to say to somebody else, boy, I appreciate that you did that. Rather than just feeling like you're the watchdog for the unit. That's all I was trying to say.
Oh, you're making an incredibly important point. And so I hope that those rounding documents that you fill out will emphasize the positive as well.
In Philadelphia, if I receive a coffee break conversation by email, I would perceive it immediately as a documentation of a conversation that I did not have. That is, I would feel it like that. So,
totally agree. Another downside. So, if whatever documentation is provided seems to add up to a pattern, what do we do? Well, in this pyramid, we have this level 1 intervention where an apparent pattern has developed, and we're now beyond the informal cup of coffee. And so here's a story about someone who's being difficult with the new nurses. This is a report in your role as an authority, nursing supervisor, director. And the report reads from a nurse, I hear Nurse Pichert gossiping constantly about a new nurse's shortcomings. Makes me feel uncomfortable. I think it really negatively affects our unit or our clinic. The report continues, in addition, Nurse Pichert withholds information. Today, Nurse Pichert asked new nurse to inform Dr. X about a patient's condition without giving crucial details. Dr. X yelled at the new nurse for not knowing the information. Nurse Pichert and 2 others were laughing over in the corner, and they asked how I liked new nurse's initiation. And this is a case I'll share with you in a moment where this nurse had had a couple of previous cup coffee conversations, but these are new events, and it are being reported by a 3rd individual. The previous conversations were about this. The new nurse reported that Nurse Pichert doesn't offer to help. I had a question. Nurse Pichert rolled his eyes. You don't know how to do that? What do they teach you in nursing school these days? But Nurse Pichert answered somebody else's question. who'd been here a lot longer than me. Another report came from a patient through the patient advocate's office. Nurse Pichert told the new nurse, "You just need to learn the hard way," when the new nurse asked for help with my meds. I'm really concerned about my care now. You can't make this up, can you? No. You ever seen such? So let me ask this. There's 3 reports. I mean, this gets pretty anecdotal, doesn't it? In your role as leaders, would you characterize 3 reported events as a pattern? You know how to pick up your clickers. I hope they're not buried under all the paper that you've been given. Please give me a response. Would you characterize 3, actually 4 events, but 3 different reports? There is some uncertainty, and I respect that. The other thing, you get to decide how much and what constitutes a pattern. So if you're sure that 3 reports, it's fine. If you want it to be 4, 5, you decide. As leaders, that's part of the responsibility that you carry, and how much longer you want this behavior to continue before you really share it with the individual. So in this case, many of us, 80%, are pretty sure that this represents a pattern. So let's take a look at what the guiding principles might be for having these conversations in your leadership role. Notify me in advance that you're coming to me. Give me a heads up. Mark a letter confidential. Lay out what it is, and then a personal phone call to set up the meeting. Or if you run into me in the hallway, just let me know that you want to have this session and what it's about. The reason for that should be obvious to you. You don't want to bring somebody a pattern of behavior and lay it out before them without giving them a chance to at least digest what this is about. You want to prevent that frustration, that flushing that comes with being really demonstrated that you stand out from the crowd and that this has become a big deal or a bigger deal. We want the opportunity for you to respect me enough that you'll let me know about this in advance so I can get over the initial flush of emotion that hits most of us. Allow some time to talk. We're all busy, incredibly busy, and so this needs to be scheduled. Have clear goals and review the events, whatever data you have. If you have clinical markers or indicators, that's one thing. If you have a bunch of stories, that's another. But they become the data. They become the observations on which you base the sharing. What about the letter? Well, these are some excerpts from one that we often use. We're all committed to providing safe, high-quality care. Teamwork's essential. Complaints involving performance related to team communications have come to my attention. We've discussed this issue previously. That's the key here. But it seems you continue to be associated with, notice the passive language, that's deliberate. You seem to be associated with teamwork-related concerns. You're a valued member. You know, some assertions are faulty. Our purpose in getting together, we're not going to debate the merit of individual complaints, but I hope we can figure out, you can figure out why they occur, address why, improve our safety. And you know, I conduct these reviews as a normal part of our ongoing quality improvement efforts, and I'll follow up as needed. Thank you in advance for the appropriate communications with team members. They help reduce risk for our patients. And you know, in my experience, most colleagues, not direct reports, most colleagues just need to be made aware that they stand out and they improve their performance compliance. You know, and I'll call to schedule an appointment, and if you prefer, you can call me.